Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for the seven-figure entrepreneur who's looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy holidays. Yeah.
All right. So,
Hey.
Ted, I have a lot of trust in the fact that this has been a happy Monday. See, Natalie, you see what I did there?
I
That's right.
did.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. So nobody's laughing at that but me right now because we don't know what the topic of today's episode is. It's all about trust, right? And I think this will be a happy Monday, happy episode, and all that good stuff because we're going to talk about the secret to getting repeat customers all day, every day. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag and we'll really expound it. It has everything to do with trust
That's
and
right.
building trust. And I think that could be your internal customers and your external customers. Building trust. We're going to talk about all things trust today. But before we get into that, please know this is not your everyday podcast. No, we do a little things a little differently here. And Ted, we didn't get a chance to tell Natalie about how different we are, but I think she'll fit
She'll
in just
see.
fine.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She'll be fine.
Absolutely.
Nowhere to run, Natalie. You're here now.
Nowhere to run. I can't
Nowhere
wait.
to hide. You're here. We got you now.
Well, it's only a 30-minute hour, so
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, good stuff. And again, speaking of the 30-minute hour, don't forget that you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And that way you never miss a episode in the future. You'll get the reminders where you can listen in on the podcasting platforms. And if you like watching us, you can watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. All right. The secret to getting repeat customers all day, every day. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. She helps business owners, leaders, and their teams earn their customers' unshakable trust so they can get these repeat customers and referrals all day, every day. And she's the author of The Power of Trust, How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, and the president of Success Through Trust. She's been named one of the world's top thought leaders in trust for 5 consecutive years by Trust Across America. In other words, she is somebody. All right. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Natalie Doyle Oldfield.
thank you. It's great to be here, Eric. Great to be here, Ted.
Absolutely. Great to have you as well. I definitely want to jump into all things trust, but I did want to get some background perspective of you. I'm just curious. At one point, you were an undergraduate at the University of New Brunswick. Just curious, like, what was your vision for your career during that time?
Well, honestly, when I was in university at the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton, I really just wanted to work with a business. I didn't really have a very clear vision other than I knew I wanted to work with customers. And when I graduated from the University of New Brunswick, I actually went right on to another university and did a second degree. So I then went on to Mount St. Vincent University and did a degree in public relations and communications. And when I graduated from there, I started in my career in marketing because that's when I realized I really want to work with business owners to help them grow their companies. So I spent the first 2 decades of my career in marketing roles and roles that were like product management, marketing communications for primarily in the IT industry. And I worked with some small regional software developing companies and some very large global multinational companies, both in Canada and the US, and always in roles that helped customers. And it's amazing, you know, when you actually have the hindsight's a great thing. You look back, and all of those roles really brought me to where I am today. And that is working, as you said, with business owners and leaders to help them become the most trusted business in their entire space, and for them to get unshakable trust with their customers.
Yeah, it's always interesting how when you look back, you can see how the dots connect, right?
Yeah.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of times when we're in it, we don't realize we were standing on a dot. A lot of times we think we're just, oh man,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
everything connects. And I'm just curious, like if you could, knowing what you now know, if you could go back and talk to that younger, maybe even the undergraduate version, that younger version of yourself, and be a mentor, what advice would you give to your younger self?
What a great question. I think there's so much advice I would give myself, to be honest. There's so much advice. Um, try new things, never stop learning, say yes. Continue to be curious. I'm very curious, and I think that I would advise myself to always try new things and be curious.
Mm, yeah, continue to be curious.
Yeah. Yeah, and be a lifelong learner. I mean, one of the things that I love about what I do now is a lot of what I do now, as you mentioned in the introduction, Eric, is I work with business owners to help them grow their business to be the most trusted. And I do that by presenting to sales teams or presenting to leadership teams around how to build or retain or protect relationships of trust.
Mhm.
And another thing that I do a lot of is I do a lot of training. And I think that one of the things that I would also advise myself and advise any younger person is to be a lifelong learner. And one of the things I actually really love about what I do is I get to meet people who are very like minded, that want to learn new skills and they want to learn how to approach things differently. And a lot of times people ask me, and you had mentioned that you might ask me, what's the one thing that people have a myth about trust? And sometimes people ask me that, and it's that it is a skill that can be learned.
Hmm.
Mm.
Just like we learn how to be an amazing project manager. Well, being a trusted leader is a skill, or what I might call being a trusted advisor. And I really believe it's the number one skill that people need to learn. And that's what I would tell young people, is that can change the trajectory of your entire career. And here's the secret. I would tell that to people who are very experienced and advanced in their career too. Because if you think about the people you know in their careers, and a lot of the folks that have been on this show, the ones that are great communicators and have empathy and are authentic and sincere and can earn your trust really quickly, their whole career expands and grows so much quicker. So it's a skill, and I really believe a leadership imperative. And once you become and learn how to become a trusted leader, it can really catapult your career.
It's interesting. So that question I just asked you, like
Yeah.
I've been thinking here recently, like what's something I would talk to myself, right?
Okay.
Yeah, what's something I would, and one of the things is, I don't think they teach you this in school. That I think you come out of school thinking that the most qualified person is going to get the position, right? The person that has the best resume is going to get the position. The company with the best qualifications is going to get the contract, and that's
I'm
not the case.
I'm nodding with Ted. That's not the case, is it, Ted? Uh-huh. They do teach you that, Eric, but that's not the case.
Yeah, right. But see, what they don't tell you is that it comes back to trust a lot of times, right?
It all comes back to trust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
exactly.
know, it all comes back to trust. If we think about the candidates or the companies that win the contracts or win the jobs, it's because they're the most trusted. Worldwide, 80% of us buy from companies we trust.
Yeah.
That's right.
68% of us refer business and products and services when we trust. If you become the trusted one, what I would call the one to your clients, the trusted advisor, many times it's sole sourced. They don't go out for a proposal, right? They don't ask you to do several quotations. You're not competing against lots of other companies. When you become the most trusted, they want to use all your products and services. And if they don't, they refer you to their friends. And so the critical and the key success factor for every company, it doesn't matter what business you're in, is to become the most trusted. Because then we keep going back and back and back.
You
And
know,
we also pay more for products and services we
Hmm.
trust.
What's funny is you know, there's some things that like how we conduct ourselves as far as in our homes, like we got a plumber, it's the same plumber,
Yes,
right? We got someone that comes by and fixes stuff. We go back to
100%, Ted.
that
Yeah,
same person. A lot of times we go to a lot of the same restaurants. And if you think about that, right, we order some
yes,
of the same. I'm speaking for myself. Order some of the same stuff,
yeah.
and then
And
those same people go to work and they're decision makers, and we
that's
think
right.
that they operate differently. Now,
That's right.
sometimes in some organizations, like in the government, they make you go through a process, right? You got to see multiple vendors and read a bunch of proposals because that's just the process. But in organizations where you own the company, you don't really have to. I trust Natalie, and Natalie does my marketing. Like that's it.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah. And
that's it.
so,
She's been doing it for the past 10 years, and she's done a
yeah.
great job. And yeah, I don't want to talk to anyone else.
And if we go back to the plumber example, you
Mhm.
know, in your home, when your neighbors say, Ted, I'm looking for a plumber, I have a leaky pipe.
Yeah,
What would you recommend? We turn to our friends and colleagues for recommendations. So you
yeah,
think of that plumber that you use that you trust,
yeah.
right? And so in I have a program, it's a group program where I take managers through the steps to become a trusted advisor. And what I share with them is that trust is at the foundation of customer experience.
Mm,
That's so we are all evaluating a customer experience with the trust lens.
mm,
And what's really interesting is, to your point, Ted, we take our experiences from home to the workplace.
hmm.
And one guy in my program, his name was John. Our program takes place over 6 or 7 weeks. And like I said, it's a group program, a couple hours a week, 2 hours a week by Zoom. And we were doing some group exercises, and he said after the very first session, he said, "Wow," he goes, "customers are just like me. They're evaluating companies the same way, and we do, and we're all evaluating how we buy and who we buy from and what we buy based on what we trust."
Mm,
It's the single biggest factor. And
mm.
first we decide to trust, then we look at a company's capabilities.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we're having this conversation
Yeah.
because there's somebody that's frustrated right now because they're
Okay.
looking at somebody else that's in their industry who doesn't have the capabilities and doesn't have
Okay.
all of the on paper things, but that company seems to get all the contracts. And there's a reason.
Well,
Yeah, talk about that.
and
Talk about that.
so it comes down to the people, Eric. For
Hmm.
every company, it's the customer facing people that, because trust is happens during interactions, right? So often people ask me, well, what's the number one thing that a business owner can do to set themselves up for success? It's make sure that your customer facing people know how to build trust. They have the
Mm.
skills.
Yep.
They are self-aware. They're good communicators. They're good trust builders. And, a trusted leader can be a great role model to show people how they do that. And these
Absolutely.
aren't skills, you were talking about university. These aren't skills, as you mentioned, that we often learn in school, right? They're not skills that we learn in university, college, or in most institutions. But when you learn them and you actually take training and coaching to figure out how to do it, like I said, it can really change the trajectory of your entire career. And it's what sets your company apart. That's how the companies win these projects, because they are the most
Mm.
trusted.
It's funny, you think about just some people growing up. Like I have some friends I could think about growing up. They were just able to just get people to do most anything, right? They just, were able to build that trust and people would follow them and,
Yeah.
they could use that for good or evil, right? But they had that capability. And if they, honed in on those skills a bit as they in their careers, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, it's those people, tend to do well, especially in areas where, you're trying to, provide, goods and services to
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I find is, like, I've worked with a lot of different business owners and a lot of different people within their teams to help them build relationships of trust with customers. And to your point, Eric, internal and external customers. And once you get that skill that you're talking about, Ted, because some people have it, some people don't. In fact, I had a client whose name is Matt, and we first met. He heard me speak. He's like, oh, now I get it, what it is. Because some people have it, some people don't. It's
Mm.
like your friends that you're thinking about growing up, Ted. Some people have it, some people don't. But you can actually learn how to do it. And
Yeah.
I had this one guy in my program, relatively young engineer. He'd been working for about 5 years, really solid team player, and was doing really well in the company. And his manager thought, he could do more. He's got, all the very strong technical skills. Yet the gentleman did not want to go in front of a customer. He was terrified. He
Mm.
was he was not confident. And he went in the trusted advisor program, and then he met he got the confidence and learned how the step-by-step process we decide to trust, because it's based on science and evidence. My framework is.
Mm.
And then he was very confident and had, what we might say, he had it. He had that confidence. And now he's doing business development in his company, in addition to doing the project work as an engineer.
Mm.
So it is something that you can learn and make very practical.
Mm.
Mm. So, what are some of the common trust mistakes or the common things that entrepreneurs do that just damages trust that you see that we need to avoid?
Well, we probably, if the three of us had an hour, not just a 30-minute hour, could come up with a very long list. But I would suggest, when I'm doing a workshop with a company or a group of people, usually the number one thing that comes up is that someone lies. That
Mm.
destroys trust.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lying can take a lot of forms, right? Not telling the truth. It could be like not being transparent, like leaving important information out.
Hmm.
So, sometimes people are vague and they just tell us a little bit, not the whole truth. That also destroys trust, because we wonder, okay, well, what else are they hiding? Right?
Mm,
That's what we wonder. So that's sort of, I would say, that the number one thing that comes up. I mean, the other big thing is when someone doesn't walk the talk. They may say they do something, but then they don't
mm,
follow up, or they don't actually do what they say they're going to do. So they're not, deliver what I would call delivering on their promise. But the biggest trust buster, I mean, there's so many trust busters, but I'd say one of the biggest ones is when someone's not acting in the other person's best interest. They're acting in their own best interests.
mm.
So their motives and intentions, if you will, are not authentic, and they're not acting in the other person's best interest. That
Yeah, and
would be a big one.
yeah, and I think customers pick up on that, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so like if I'm having work done to my car and
Yes.
I'm calling other places to, like, if you give me an estimate and I'm calling other places just to see if I can get a better price, there's something you're doing wrong, because I don't have that kind of time, right? I just want to really, I just want to go with whatever you say,
Yeah.
because I can just move on to the next thing. So if I
Yeah.
trust you, you can tell me it's $5,000, and I'm gonna, okay, this is what it needs. This, let's invest. Let's do this. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think there's a breakdown in trust that's at the root of many of the business problems.
Oh, I would agree 100%, Eric.
Yeah.
100%. Most challenges that I see in businesses they come down to the root of being a trust challenge.
Hmm.
That is a challenge. So if we just think about that mechanic story, if you trusted the quote and trusted the mechanic is giving you the best price they have and the best estimate, and they're considering all the options to fix your vehicle, then why wouldn't you say yes?
Yeah. Why would I
But
call around? Yeah.
why would you call around?
It's
Now,
funny that example is so funny. I'm just thinking. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I have a service contact at where I get my car
yeah,
serviced, and I've worked with her for years. I've gotten multiple vehicles from there. I won't say the dealer, but her name is Tammy. Tammy's been my person 10 plus years, and
yeah,
I call in and I'm like, okay, I want Tammy, right? I want Tammy to handle my situation, and when I get there, Natalie, Eric, I go in, I check in. She's, how you doing? How's it going? All that family, everything. I go sit down and wait. And then, she'll come to me with, here's the quote. And I'll look at it and I'm like, now Tammy, you I'm not gonna pay all that. Okay, well, out of these five things, you really just need one, two, and four. Like you gotta have
yes.
those other things we can get. Okay, I'm willing to do that. Right. We have that
So
type of a relationship that we go through that each time. Or she'll come to me sometimes like, Ted, this is it, but I know you're not going to do this. So how about this? And we'll get you taken care of, get your car washed, and get your way in. So we have that trust. And like you said, Eric,
yeah,
I never go to another person. Like I don't even talk to another
because you're
representative.
loyal
And
to Tammy.
yeah,
Yes.
Exactly.
yeah,
And so every business owner wants and needs Tammy's on their team,
that's
right?
right.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
matter what kind of business it is, right? Whether
That's
you're a
right.
plumbing business or a professional services firm, an engineering firm, a manufacturing company, a benefits company, you want to have Tammy's, plural,
Yeah.
on your team, right?
No
I would
question.
call
No question.
a Tammy a trusted advisor, someone who is a
Yep.
trusted leader, trusted
Yep.
advisor.
Yep.
And and when you have these folks on your team in customer facing roles, you're going to have a competitive advantage. I mean, I have so many stories of Tammys, people that have come in my program and finished as a trusted leader, trusted advisor like Tammy, and helped within 30, 60 days increase sales for companies, increase customer retention rates, get new referrals. And a lot of times it starts with the folks becoming self-aware of how they do communicate, how they do act, and how they are seen. And other times it's that people just don't really realize the steps and the science behind how we decide to trust.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's talk, because you mentioned this a couple of times, Natalie. You've had people who maybe they were just afraid of really speaking in public and putting themselves out there. They go to your program, you work with them, and now all of a sudden they're the most trusted person in the organization. Talk us like,
Well, some
how
of them
does
are.
your some of them, okay? How does your program help people to become more trusted? Like what are some of the steps you take people through?
We start with and so it's all outlined on my website, Eric, by the way, just so
Mhm.
for your listeners, which is successthroughtrust.com.
Mhm.
And I also have an assessment that you can download, or some of your listeners can download if they like, on my website, that actually assesses a team's trustworthiness. So you can go through that, download it, and see if, where you are in the continuum, if you will. So the steps you take is it's all based on my book that you mentioned, The Power of Trust: How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It. And I created a framework based on evidence and science that shows how is it that people decide to trust. And so in the program, it takes place over several consecutive weeks on Zoom, and it's 2 hours a week. And it starts with learning about customer experience and being aware of how you communicate and what kind of listener you are, and what customer experience is, and what your company's purpose is, and what your company delivers and promises, more importantly, to deliver to customers. And then we talk about what their communication style is, and we just go through all the steps. And in my framework, it's a principles-based framework. So you learn the principles, and because it's principles, you apply them in each and every situation. So, they learn to be more empathetic and become more aware of how to be empathetic, and more aware of how to be open and honest. We all think we're being open and honest. However, when we're being vague or we're sugarcoating things, that's giving off a signal that we're not open and honest. As an example, so we walk through all these steps. And like I said, I have a program for business owners, Eric, called Trusted Leader, but I also have a program for folks that are up and coming leaders in teams called Becoming a Trusted Advisor.
Awesome. So you mentioned your book, The Power
Yes.
of Trust. So what are some practical tips that are in your book that can help our followers to earn that unshakable trust?
Well, there are lots of tips in here. I think the very first thing that I would say is that people should think about their own trustworthiness first,
Mm.
and think about, okay, how am I being perceived? So that's one thing. And then, building a relationship of trust. If you're a business owner, it starts with your team. So one thing that I talk about in my book is that every company has critical trust risk points. These are events or points that other people are looking at. And it's about the people. It's about how the people communicate, how they behave, and how they serve your customers or your clients. So that's one thing that I would say is really important tip for business owners to pay attention to, because entrepreneurs, when you're building a company and you're growing, it's really important to think about the people on the team, that they are the front line. That is who, and that is how your customer is evaluating your trustworthiness.
Mm.
You can have the best product in the world, or the best mousetrap in the world, or the best system in the world. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the people. It really does. And trust is built by the cumulative actions and interactions and behaviors. That's how people are evaluating you. And the 8 principles of trust that I've written about in my book, these are the decision factors. This is how people assess your trustworthiness subconsciously. So one of the things I talk about in my book is that, some of the neuroscience behind trust, and we're all doing this subconsciously, right? It takes place very quickly. So on a podcast like this, if someone doesn't show up to the podcast and you have a guest lined up for Monday night and it's 10 minutes to, and you can see that they're not in the
Waiting room.
You're probably thinking, okay, we're live in a couple minutes. What's going on? Right?
Yeah.
Best case scenario, your guest is there waiting before you're there. Hopefully you saw me in the waiting room before you got there, right? That's best case scenario. So there's all these things we can do to show our trustworthiness.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
One of the challenges I had in the early days of business, and maybe not as much now, but it's always kind of a concern, is when I go in and I meet a prospect, how I present myself and how I try to build that relationship and rapport and all of that. And then once you go to the next phase, or let's say you actually get the work, you have to hand off the baton, right, to someone else, in hopes that they will take it and run with it just as well as you, or if not better, right? Because
That's
if it's
right.
someone that works for you, right, they're not an owner, so they could leave the business any day, right? And everything that you've done to establish that trust and that relationship with that customer, and how much you really appreciate that customer, and someone else could screw all that up, like,
Yeah, that's right.
in a blink of an eye. And I've seen those types of situations, and now it makes me try to come up with strategies that will help to establish you may not have TED all the time, but there's a TED-like culture in the company that you can feel comfortable that you're gonna receive throughout.
Yeah. In fact, one of my clients, Ted, they have, so he's a business owner and it's a manufacturing company, and he's placed several people in his company in the trusted advisor program: project manager, a general manager, an estimator, and a couple of engineers. And I was so grateful that he keeps putting people in. We offer the program quarterly, and each quarter he would put in 2 or 3 people. And so I asked him, I said, now, so tell me some of the progress you're seeing. He said, look, in the beginning, the reason I was sending people, Natalie, is because I was terrified to send them to a meeting without me in the room. I just thought, what are they going to say? Right. And I thought, they're just going to talk about bits and bytes, or this feature and that feature, or what's, how much steel is in this product and how much is not. And he said, I put them in because I wanted them to learn how to manage customer relationships. and to learn some tools and some skills to manage customer expectations and to provide extra value to our customers
Mhm.
and to really be able to clarify how projects work to our customers.
Mhm.
Okay. He said, and what came out is all of these folks came out with more confidence,
Mm.
are always trying to add more value and give more value to the customer. And customers started raving about the people on the team. They
Wow.
became what I would call trusted advisors. But to your point, Ted, my client, the business owner, he couldn't be at every single meeting, right? And he was getting bogged down and feeling so much stress and pressure that, oh my gosh, like how am I going to get it all done? Because he was spending so much time on customer calls and going to customer meetings or going on Zoom or going on Teams. And because he needed to pass things off. So that's a big part of what we do is we teach people how to become trusted leaders and teach them the steps to build these relationships of trust because that's what
Mm.
it's all about.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So again, kind of back to your book. What do you think it is about your book that separates it, makes it different from the other books that are out there on the topic of trust?
My book and my framework, The Power of Trust: How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, is based on science and evidence, Eric. That's what
Mm.
makes my framework and my book different. So I actually went to graduate school, got my graduate degree in trust, how customers and stakeholders uh, trust companies. So I
Mm.
went back to school to get my master's to really figure out how is it that they decide to do this. So this is based on research and evidence, and the model and the framework that I created was tested with a really large sample size, over 80,000 people, to show that when you apply these principles, you actually get referrals, higher revenues, more sales, more loyalty.
Mm.
So it's all about, my book is different because it's based on science and evidence.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you heard that, Eric. So in a nutshell, this is some facts here. This is not just my
Yeah.
opinion. Like,
This isn't theory. This is
this is nothing. No. This is some. This is the
Yeah.
real stuff.
I mean, so the other thing is, on a very practical level with my business hat on, because I'm very practical, it also has a lot of checklists in it
Mm.
and some case studies so that you can easily just open it up and here I open it up and there's a case study, or
Yeah.
go like this and here's another case study, or there's some checklists here, right? So
Mm.
that's the other thing. And I have always been a very practical person, and I want to give people tools that they can apply and use right
Sure.
away. And that's the other thing. It's a very practical, Eric, I would say.
That's great.
all right. So we're coming down to Ted's favorite segment. It's called Write This Down. And this is where we each go around and we give at least one takeaway from this episode that we feel
Okay.
that the people need to write down so they can level up. So, Natalie, you are our guest of honor. So, we'll start with you. What do the people need to write down?
Two things. Trust is a skill. It can be learned.
Mm.
And the second thing is, for all organizations, the most critical trust risk point are the people.
Hmm.
How they communicate, how they behave, and how they serve your customers and your clients. It's all come down to the people. You can have the best product in the world or the best service, but it's about the trustworthiness of the people. They are the key to your success.
No, that's a great point, because they're not going to say, oh yeah, it was that company's person. No, it's going, oh,
You,
that's that company, right?
you need
For
the
good or for
Tammies.
bad. Yeah,
You
right.
need the Tammies.
Exactly. Oh, that's good. Hope everybody had their pen out and they were writing that down. Thank you, Natalie. Okay, Ted.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow, right? But when we go back to my Tammy example, I think it's I think trust, trust and kind of and relationships kind of synonymous. They kind of go hand in hand,
Yes.
right? Yeah, Tammy established, like, I truly believe that Tammy's not just that way with Ted, right? Because I see how her other customers light up when they come and they're, waiting to be, seen by her. And even if there's a time that I have to stay there longer for the service, right? Like, she knows, like, I'm going to go and kind of set up my own little office. I'm going to set up somewhere in the corner with my laptop. I got Wi-Fi. We got all the coffee and stuff, and I can be there all day. And, and I just, people are like, man, you're still there. I'm like, oh, well, it's cool. It's, I've been doing it this way for, 15 years here. And I know that, Tammy's gonna, is gonna do right by me, make sure I'm good. And, and it's not so much, they've done a lot of things within the environment and to make things look cozier and all that, but it's all on Tammy. Right? Like, I mean, you can have all the hot chocolate in the world in there, but if Tammy's not in there, that she makes for that experience. And as it's funny, I think about, you kind of deal with things like that from time to time, but then, I've never really sat back and looked at my own company and been like, man, I need to
Okay.
give me a Tammy, right? Like, I need to give me a couple Tammys, right? Because
Yes.
that works in everything, because it's still, it's all people,
Yep.
right? Like, the
Yes.
same people that are getting car service are the same people that are making decisions for IT services, are the same people that are at the
That's right.
restaurants. And it's funny, a lot of the places that I go, I have a person, right? Like, this one
Yes.
restaurant I go to, there's a guy there that's my person, and he sees me. It's like, hey, Ted, you're getting this today, you're getting that today. I mean, and so I just think that, yeah, I trust him. And I just think that, I just think that that's a key part of success, and, within your organizations, or, or whatever you do.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. And then so my piece for this segment is, it's similar, as I think, everybody's looking for this edge, but really the edge is trust. I think that's what
Yes.
can give you that edge. And so you
Yes.
write that down, but it reminds me. So there's a dry cleaners, and I mean, there are other dry cleaners that are closer to than this one. There are other dry cleaners that are less expensive than this one. But this particular dry cleaner has the edge because I trust them. I mean, there are
Yeah.
times I pull up in their parking lot and I'm on like a business call about to go in. They'll come out, bring my clothes to me, take
Wow.
the card. So now when I'm off my call,
Are you
that's
on
it.
your way?
Right.
Yeah. You have a
And
relationship with them. It's about relationships. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. One time they made a mistake. They made a mistake, and it was no big deal.
Mhm.
Because
It was
they built trust equity with you, Eric.
right,
Trust
right.
equity. Absolutely.
I'm like, hey, these things happen. Where I mean,
Yeah.
if it was the same mistake with another dry cleaner, I would have been upset. You know?
Upset. That's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, I think we just need to realize, if you're looking for that edge, and you even referred to it, Natalie, earlier as an it factor.
Yeah.
That ability to get people to trust you. That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I have one client, he said, so I work with this whole team, and he's like, I just want everybody to be the one people come to.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
You know,
There
they're
you
in the
go.
oceans industry. They sell, sonic systems and IT systems. I want everybody to be the one.
The
And when
one.
you are the one, when you are the trusted, you are the most trusted, you have higher revenues, higher profits. We didn't even talk about the team, but you have high performance teams, you're
Mm.
more innovative, people are more engaged. It's actually the most important indicator of success, trustworthiness.
Wow.
Absolutely. So people need to get your book so they can understand the 8
Get the book.
principles of trust
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, get
take
the
it to the
book.
next level. So once again, how can people connect with you and get this book?
Well, lots of ways to connect with me. Like I said, you can go to my website, which is successthroughtrust.com. And you can download an assessment there, complimentary, no charge, to see about how you might evaluate your team's trustworthiness. You can find my book, The Power of Trust: How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It, on Amazon.com. And you can connect with me not only on my website, successthroughtrust.com, but I'd also love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn at Natalie Doyle Oldfield. Or you can go to my YouTube channel, where I have videos and share other stories and other trust tips. So my YouTube channel is Natalie Doyle Oldfield as well.
All right. Well, thank you to Natalie Doyle Oldfield for sharing everything that you shared, and really helping people to understand how important trust is to getting that edge and taking things to the next level. And for those of you listening and watching, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show. Share the
Right.
show.
Don't keep this information a secret. And
Thanks
once
very
it,
much.
yeah, thank you. For again, you shared some fantastic information.
Great.
Um, so we want people to go to the 30-minute hour and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, hit that subscribe button. That way they don't miss another episode, and they can definitely listen to this one and take notes and take their game to the next level, like we said. So that's our time for this week on the 30-minute hour. And until next time, have a great one.
Happy holidays. Thank you very much. See
Happy
ya.
holidays.
Thanks.